Welcome to the Nagual Zone. I'm Anaam. Today we are talking about the curse of the bare minimum. You see, I've spent personally the last, you could say 20 years, really carefully observing, noticing my fellow humans. And I noticed something very, very significant in the average man's consensus reality. It seems to, because in those days I was being trained in the idea of impeccability. What does it mean? What does it mean to me? How can I become the kind of person who is impeccable with all things and everything, including first and foremost myself and my inner world, all those things. And I started noticing that it wasn't that the average man was unimpeccable. A lot of people really mean to do the best that they can, and they mean a lot. They mean to do this and they mean to do that. But in the end, I found that almost everyone was only able to manage the bare minimum in anything they touched. So you have King Midas, who would touch things and it would become, anything he touched would become gold. In the average man's world, anything the average man touches, it suffers from the curse of the bare minimum. There are exceptions to the bare minimum. Can you guess the exceptions? They're hilarious. And I have talked about those two exceptions many times in past videos. The average man will not mysteriously escape the curse of the bare minimum if they're getting paid enough, or they're getting laid by whoever they want to get laid with, or a combination of the two. Then I observed, especially in the corporate scene, which is basically the entire world is corporatized, right? So everything is corporate. I found that the getting laid, getting paid paradigm of the slave mentality produced impeccable work in people. You all know the Indians who you switch off your job at 5 p.m. in the evening. Friday night, you go off to the pub, you go off, have a drink, do your parties, whatever, for the weekend. The Indian, your fellow staff member, he's taken not only his laptop, but half the laptops in the freaking office, he's taken them home, and he can all throughout Friday, all throughout Saturday, all throughout Sunday, and back on Monday again, slaving away for nothing at all. Escaped the curse of the bare minimum and really just doing some incredible work, right? A lot of people have this. It's a silly example meant to be a bit of a comedy sketch, but you know what I mean. The Chinese and the Indians, and they just won't stop. These are 24 hours, they'll just work like mules for half your pay, right? Half your pay. They'll come over and work for half your pay, double the workload. These people I know the Indian mentality, I know the Indian schooling. It's the same thing in that entire part of the realm. It's give your best when it comes to getting paid. The Indian doesn't care about getting laid. It's zero. There's nothing going on there. But he'll work like a mule horse. Getting paid is the main drive. In the West, people have a combination of the two. But there is at least enough that, or I'm getting paid enough, or I'm getting laid with, at least there is, in the general population, right? Not all the time, but in the general population, there is a sense of a little bit of, I'm not going to do anything if I'm not getting paid enough. Otherwise, it's back to bare minimum, right? And warriors invest a lot of energy in not being like that. Now, I'll come back to that later, but first let's discover why this even happens. Why does a perfectly good luminosity choose time and again, day in, day out, to give themselves the absolute bare minimum, and their slave master, if the incentive is high enough, the best of the best of their time, energy, and resources and talent? Why is it? I asked that question and I started seeing patterns, which is really just the flip side of the same. It's the same habit. The first one, why people, at least in the Western world, or a certain section of the pyramid of society, the feudal system that is in place, that section of the population will never get out of the curse of the bare minimum. They practice it diligently. Everything else is the bare minimum that I can get away with, because of entitlement. These people as kids have really never wanted for anything. And no, there aren't really any poor people in the West. No, really. If you want to see poverty, you want to go to a favela, or you want to go to a ghetto in India. That's poverty. In the West, you know what you get as homeless people? Vegetarian homeless people. I have personally encountered a vegan homeless. Yeah, that's not poverty. So there's a lot of entitlement from the gutter upwards. A lot of entitlement. And that entitled living produces a lack of motivation that then leads to just doing the bare minimum to get by. Bare minimum. Especially towards themselves. The flip side of that bare minimum, the entitled master indulger, I made a video about that a long time ago. What is an EMI, it was called. Go and watch it, it's a very interesting video. The flip side of that is the hard-working slave. Your friendly neighborhood, hard-working slave. This person just working away like a mule, got 3 jobs, 50 mouths to feed, and all the responsibility and this and then and working hard, and that's the life, right? Fighting against all odds. They're the Jedi of their own life. Work 15-hour shifts, and I pay my bills, and I've got 50 mouths to feed. All of that magic. It's all self-created by the decisions this person has made in their life. So you have the entitled, and then you have the other side, completely the other side. Both, I found, had one thing in common as far as warriors are concerned. Both did not have enough energy available to them at the end of the day to be able to have the capacity to give their very best in each moment of each day in their life. Simply didn't have the energy. The entitled, suffering from, there's a word called ennui, E-N-N-U-I, ennui, which is like this spiritual lethargy, you can call it, or a physical, mental, emotional lethargy, where you just can't be bothered. Too entitled, never not needed anything anyway. When you flip the switch, electricity always comes on. When you open the tap, water on tap. Never not had everything that you ever wanted for a good life, really. Shelter. Oh, but we lived in the trailer. You had shelter. You have no idea that people I personally used to know would kill to get into your bullshit, dirty trailer that you think is a hellhole. I personally used to know, when I was in India, I used to know people who would physically kill someone to be able to live in your trailer. To this date, I know people who would endure any kind of hardship you can throw at them just to get the boat across and simply be homeless in your country. Yeah. So the entitled part of the world, part of the average man's consensus insanity, simply don't have they're like, inside, they're like this. There's a word in the Christians have a great word for that, sloth. The sin of sloth. Right? And then you have the other side. These people are mostly found in the eastern part of the world. The hard-working slave. Naturally, these people absolutely don't have any energy left at the end of the day to do anything for their own betterment, for anything. They're caught in a vicious loop of self-fulfilling slavery. Now, this is a general picture. There are exceptions, absolutely, but if we start talking only about the exceptions, there's no conversation left, right? So don't be like in the comments, don't start arguing and but blah blah blah. Just keep it steady and understand what points are being put across to you. These two sections comprise 99.9% of humans. So you can see the sheer lack of capacity in almost every member of the average man's consensus insanity to be even able to give more than the bare minimum to anything and everything. How do we flip this around? How does a warrior flip that around? A warrior, no one is born a warrior. You go through an apprenticeship, and there is nothing called a DIY Toltec. How do we escape the curse of the bare minimum? Because you can't move an inch in the Toltec path if you suffer from the curse of the bare minimum. You can't do it. Impossible. Right? It is extremely important that you crack this. At the very least, it'll give you an impeccable death in the end. You will meet your death with your chin up and you'll say, yeah, I gave my very best in each moment in life. I'm ready. The bare minimums, they have horrible deaths. Dying in the ICU in hospitals and just painful, lingering on with cancer, freaking 10 years, hair's fallen off and skin is rotting away. All sorts of horrible deaths happen to the bare minimum people. Now, this doesn't mean that if you live an impeccable life, death is gonna come and give you a gold medal. You may have a horrible death still. There's no way to know. But the warrior maximizes their chances to live a great life and have a great death. Right? how do we crack this? You must start by finding a way to gain energy. If your tanks are empty, your truck isn't going anywhere. It doesn't matter what a powerful truck you have, a 21-wheeler, and you're carrying the best cargo, the most precious and valuable, and you're working on your I am the greatest being that ever walked this earth, and you're affirming some amazing stuff. I am rich, I am famous, you're doing all of that. But if you don't have fuel in your tanks, your truck ain't going nowhere. You have to get fuel in your tanks. I know people, somehow they all happen to be white women, new age white women, who've been working on their self-esteem and self for decades, and they're really secure and confident now, and oops, but one of them's got fibromyalgia. The other one's got EMI, no, what is it? MI, some white stuff. All these where you don't have any energy in the day. But they've been working on themselves for a long time, and they're very self-confident and everything, and got no energy. For warriors, then we would do the other way around. So for now, if you are under the curse of the bare minimum, and you know if you are or not, chances are that you really are. And if you think you are not, then look at your bank balance. If it is your own money, no, not your inheritance, that's not your money, that's other people's money. It's not your money. Never was, never will be, no matter how long you have possession of it. If it's your gathered resources and you're abundant in that, you've done impeccably well. Look at your relationships. They will tell you straight away whether you're a bare minimum person or are you a winner. Right? Then that way you'll stop deluding yourself, and then give yourself a chance to move forward. You have to find ways to cultivate energy. Some of the great ways that I personally have verified in my own life, used in my own life, are Tai Chi every single day, every day. If you're sick, do Qigong instead. Otherwise, do Tai Chi. Learn the long form Tai Chi. There's a great person I recommend, Dr. Lam, Lam. His material is fantastic. He himself is extremely accomplished Tai Chi master. Learn. Or go to your nearby classes. Don't go to, very few people can just go to YouTube and learn Tai Chi. You won't learn anything. Invest, gain energy. Secondly, shut up and sit in silence for 10 minutes every day, without fail. If you're sick, obviously give yourself a day off, 2 days off, whatever it is. But shut yourself down and spend 10 minutes on a timer practicing non-interference inside yourself. What does that mean? Find out, sit down, and do that for the next 10 years. This way you'll start gaining energy. Slowly, slowly your tanks will start filling up, and there are many, many other ways to gain energy. You have to find a way to do this. Do yoga. Yoga is amazing to gain energy. Especially learn properly, but it's, don't just do some DIY bullshit. Learn properly something called Ashtanga yoga. Do that. It'll give you lots of energy. Couple Ashtanga yoga with Yin yoga, and you got a fantastic combination. Kundalini yoga will give you so much energy, you'll become a powerhouse. There are 1,000 ways to gain energy if you know how, if you have the correct intention. that energy will bubble out of you in higher and higher quality moments. And that energy will help you connect with your true life. Not the false life you're living right now, but your true life. What you are meant to be living. And magic will start happening over time. You will start self-correcting. And you will start to understand why living the bare minimum is no longer possible for you. You want to get to a place where it is repulsive to you to give your bare minimum in anything. You're washing the dishes? Yeah. Wash them as if you're getting paid a lot of money to wash those dishes. Well. You have time alone by yourself at home? Yeah. Imagine that your favorite celebrity is coming and spending that time with you. How would you treat yourself? What would you do? No longer the bare minimum. You have to switch over and learn to give your best and then a little bit more. You have to become that kind of person. If you do not become that kind of person, you will always remain a nowhere person going nowhere. You will. I've seen countless examples of nowhere people going absolutely nowhere. But as the years go by, thinking that they are somehow something, they're getting, because of all the videos they're watching and the Netflix, the Disney, it's all going in every day in, day out. News and TV and junk food and the bullshit job that you do. Rationalizing all of that by the gap between who you really are and who you think you are just widening. You don't want to be the laughing stock of the world, because once that gap widens too much, a winner will come along, a champion will come along, if you're lucky to even run into one, a warrior will come along and they'll just laugh at you. They're like, wow, this person's just nothing but bluster. There's nothing inside there at all. On the other hand, if you switch over to giving your very best in every single thing, it takes a lot of stamina initially, because you just don't have the energy. Give it 10 years. It will take you 10 years to get to a place. That same warrior, that same champion, that same winner will come along and they'll respect you. They'll look at you and they'll look again. Like, oh, this one's different. This one's different. I like this guy. I like this girl. Or this lady. This woman. You want to be that person. You can be that person. But you have to get focused. Whatever your circumstances are, don't worry about it right now. Start to gain energy. The more energy, ambient energy you're storing in your body at any given moment, the more present you are, not leaking energy away in indulging in nonsense, weed and drugs and coffee, cigarettes, alcohol, sex addiction. Those things are keeping you at the bare minimum. They're leeching all your energy away from you, and all your drugs, medications, dis-ease. You're in a private hell of your own, but naturally a person will always rationalize in order to be able to bear it. So you rationalize, thinking you're better than you really are, but you're not. Start with gaining more energy. On this, let me know in the comments if you have successfully escaped the curse of the bare minimum and become the kind of person whose very character is of someone who must and will and can give their very best in each moment. If you have any personal stories, some real life examples to share, philosophies are fine, you can all discuss between yourselves, but I don't tend to look at comments which long philosophies and whatever. If you have real life examples of inspiration to yourself and others for future people who will read that comment and be inspired, put them down in the comments below. And I shall see you next week or whenever the next video will come out. Walk in freedom. Farewell.